All right, it's time. It's time for the Ranger shit, guys. Okay, prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves for the Ranger video here. Here it is. It's Ranger, my friends. The Untamed has actually arrived here. Let's take a look at what we have here, my friends. Let's just take a look at Untamed. You know, this trailer doesn't give that much away. It's very much a teaser, but, you know, let's take a look anyway. Here we go. Ooh, NC. Ooh, it's Hammer, guys. That's right. It's got leaves on it, too. I was expecting it to be called Warden, but it's not called that. I've got subtitles on.
Within Echovault, and the Untamed have learned to channel them through the bond.
Oh, summon sprouts.
Their earth-shaking
Your pet's green.
Keep enemies dazed and off balance, while their pet
CC
attacks are bolstered by raw primal energy.
Wow.
The power of nature flows
Power
back
of
and
nature?
forth between the Untamed
Insane.
and their animal companion, empowering their killing blows.
Hell yeah. Now, let me just say this, guys. Okay? It's gonna leak something. This says absolutely nothing about how this actually works in any way, right? Like, just straight up, guys. Like, you're seeing a few skills here, but it doesn't really tell you anything mechanically. Now, the really interesting thing for me to note here is that sometimes the pet, right, and you can see the swap there. See this guy? See the swap? Sometimes the pet has got this kind of green tentacle effect on it, like this green like pattern on it, green glow, but sometimes the player does as well. So it appears that this elite specialization has dual modes, right? You're able to charge up yourself, but also charge up your pet. So it seems to be a little bit like almost like a different version of Soul Beast in a way, right? So instead of, you know, the pet charging you up, you almost seem to be able to like swap between, right? You swap between charging yourself and charging the pet. We don't see the pet doing anything remarkable here. They don't really show off any abilities that the pet might have. It's mostly looking at like some of the spell effects here. But what I do expect to see is that maybe some of the abilities and profession mechanics allow you a bit more direct control over your pet, right? So you maybe your abilities are a bit like Guild Wars 1 pet attacks. So as you use a util skill, right, and then it makes your pet do something, right? Like much more directly than other ranger specs. That's what it seems to be. So you like use an ability and it empowers your pet and then boom. So this is clearly a hammer skill. It's some kind of like big AoE. This is very, very, I actually really like this. And the other thing here actually is that it does make me a little bit excited, guys, for this, is that I was really hoping that this would be like some kind of like mega world versus world thing going on here. And hammer obviously goes in that direction. We have this AoE CC, we have this AoE spin, this AoE cleave. But the fact that you can empower yourself means that even if your pet dies, which it will in World versus World, obviously, right? Then that's okay, because you can still get value out of the elite specialization by empowering yourself and using the mechanics in that direction too. And actually, I guess I was wrong. Actually, there is, look, here you go. You have this pet using like a special move. I think it's got like some extra special effects here. You kind of see like the green glow. Yeah, that was the Azurian thing. But I think this one here, like this attack here, like boom, you have that big nature magic burst. So it does appear to me that you're able to like empower your pet's attacks there as well. That's going to be a lot of fun to deal with in PvP. And what I definitely like about this is that it appears to be a very different style of weapon. Ranger, to me, has always been very limited by its weapon design. You know, not much cleave, like almost like single target a lot of the time, right? The exception being greatsword, but even that weapon is really nothing on some of like the really big cleave weapons that other professions have, right? When you're looking at, you know, stuff like, you know, Revenant Hammer, for example, like massive AoE damage there, right? You know, stuff like Elementalist Staff, huge AoE damage. You know, Guardian Greatsword Cleave, you know, that sort of like really intense DPS, or Vindicator, right? That's where Ranger's always been lacking, and it seems that they are fixing that, right? We're seeing that there's a lot of like all these abilities, like the auto attacks, right? The you know, the skill slots abilities here for the hammer all seem to do loads of extra like cleave damage, like big explosions about the place. The effects look pretty cool there as well. I am still very curious and very much in the dark about like what this build can actually do, because unlike the Spectre trailer, we can't really discern what this does outside of doing damage and AoE CC. Can it give AoE support? Can it do some kind of some kind of healing or some kind of boons, right? Or like, what does it do? Is it, it looks like power to me, but I mean, I don't see any conditions being inflicted. So it looks like a power spec, but it could very easily be combi or hybrid there too. So this is definitely a teaser that really doesn't give much away, in my opinion, whatsoever with this mechanic. But I'm definitely very interested to see how this actually plays out. I really hope it can find a space in world versus world and PvP actually there as well. Because in PvE, it's going to just do loads of damage and probably be pretty cool there as well. But I'd definitely like to see a little bit more of a broader, more hybrid design. Although it has resistance here, right, actually? Yeah, you actually have resistance here, so it can at least give itself resistance. Presumably when you, like, activate this kind of, like, green glowy mode, maybe you give yourself and your pet resistance so you can ignore snares, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool, actually. Although Ranger in general doesn't really struggle with this too much, because it has loads of ways to break out of that, right? Particularly lightning reflexes can get you out of that immediately. So I could see this build being very, very slippery. But then again, you could run this build with something like a Great Sword Hammer, potentially, and you could be, like, really, really big, beefy, but also have loads of defensive utility there too. I don't know. Like it's very, very difficult to actually find out exactly what this is going to do. I think they probably won't lean too much into support because, again, you already have stance share, right, with Soul Beast, and you have a support spec there with Druid. So it might actually go more in that direction of a pure DPS spec, which I guess would be, that would be fair enough, I guess. But if that's going to be the case, I'd actually really like to see some heavy reworks to Soul Beast, particularly to make it more relevant in world versus world, because I think Ranger has always been lacking this big Zerg build, and I think that anything with a pet almost can't do that. Yeah, maybe you can get value because of the pet, the empowerment on yourself and the big hammer cleave, but I think stance share is just like such a perfect mechanic for world versus world because it's like unremovable, really potent effects like being immune to snares, like Doliak stance sharing stability as well, right? Loads of extra damage and mitigation there, like super speed with Griffin stance, right? All this kind of use of boon output with Moa stance. Like it almost seems like a bit of a shame that Soul Beast doesn't do that. So maybe some reworks to Ranger down the line could actually work. But then again, you never know, right? Like maybe this spec also has that ability to do so too, but the fact that the pet is still there definitely makes me a little bit skeptical. The one thing that I still don't know about here is like, what is the actual profession mechanic going to be, right? What are the F skills going to do here? When you hit F1, what happens? Do you just swap the charge between you and your pet, and then the charge then empowers your abilities? For example, maybe when your pet uses a command skill, it does like a bonus effect. Maybe your utility skills charge at your pet and make your pet do something cool, right? There as well. You've got, again, like pet attacks like in Guild Wars on that, because look, let's be honest, guys, this is actually basically what the this is kind of like the Bunny Thumper build in Guild Wars 1. I think that's probably where some inspiration is there. And I believe the Bunny Thumper build actually was kind of a Beastmaster build, right? I think, actually, if I recall correctly. Let me just quickly look that up on the internet and see if that actually is the case, right? Yeah, it actually does. It uses stuff like Rampage is one there as well. Yeah, Bestial Mauling. Yeah, you actually have some abilities that that you actually command your pet to do, and I think some inspiration is being taken here from that. So I wouldn't at all be surprised to actually see this be very pet focused, and if anything, being quite healthy. Because one of the really big problems I think with pet design in Guild Wars 2 is actually how little control the Ranger has over the pet. If this actually gave the Ranger more control over the way the pet worked, I think that would actually be a really nice kind of design philosophy. So if you have like a cast time on all the pet abilities and it was very predictable when these abilities would actually go off, I think that could actually be very, very cool, giving the Ranger more control over this through utility skills and profession mechanics there as well. So I kind of get it, right? I think that could be a very interesting design, but I could be completely wrong because, again, this really gives no details away. I mean, the Spectre really gave you a pretty good idea, particularly with the boon output that it had, but this, you're very, very much in the dark here as well with the actual capacity and capabilities of this build. But there you go. That will basically be my analysis on this little mini teaser. Definitely stay tuned for that one, guys, on Friday. I think that one's very much an unknown. It's a little bit late, seeing as that's the second to last reveal, I guess. But ArenaNet, little tip, in the future, maybe tell us what the utility skills do in the video, maybe tell us what the profession mechanic actually is, right, in these videos, so that people actually know what it is. Because this is the story. A little bit of a rant here to kind of conclude this segment talking about the Ranger, okay? Every single time with these elite specs, do you know what people have said? They said, oh, wow, that looks lame as hell. It doesn't look good, right? Ooh, Dan's game, not very high energy. Ooh, wow. Okay. And then when CMC reveals it on stream and actually shows off the mechanic, everyone just goes like, wow, this is actually amazing. Why was their trailer so low energy, right? So ArenaNet, just do yourself a favor and avoid this like doomsaying, because basically all this stuff does is like, oh, people are kind of used to it right now, so it's not happening nearly as much. But still, okay, just come on. We can do a little better than this, right? You know, we've got to get some hype trailers out there, hype teasers, and get people excited, right? It's a little bit late now, but hey, you know, for expansion number 4, which, who knows, might be down the line, a little bit of a tip there for you guys, okay? Make sure it's hype and exciting and people actually know what it does. Because right now, guys, I've got no idea what that does. And by the way, you can't actually let Spectre get away with this too, because bear in mind, the only reason we knew that Spectre gave quickness is because we were actually looking for the buff to get applied. And we saw the barrier animation there as well. They did mention barrier, to be fair, actually, in the video, but they didn't mention quickness, didn't really mention resistance, didn't mention what Shadow Shroud is, like how that even works, right? Like what even that mechanic is. I'm not saying they have to do like a full 1 hour long breakdown, okay? Like, you know, you don't have to do that. Like, that's obviously excessive, but at least tell us what the mechanic is, you know? Like, with, you know, oh, what's the special new thing it can do, right? You know, it's like saying what Soul Beast, doing like a trailer for Soul Beast without saying that you merge with your pet. Like, why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense. Like, why do a trailer for Weaver without mentioning that you combine elements into dual skills, right? You know, it would be insane. Wouldn't make any sense to describe it in that way. There you go. Rant is over, guys, okay? You know, I think they could do a lot better, right? They're not really doing the game justice, in my opinion, by showing these very somewhat stilted animation videos with, like, no real combat flow and no real idea on what the spec actually does outside of roleplay. To me, they're focusing on like the RP element, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I like, they're channeling nature magic from the depths of the Echovald forest, you know, re-emerging from being turned into stone after all those years of corruption from Shiro. That's awesome. I love that. Now tell me what it does, right? Because unfortunately, guys, me role-playing as a tree-hugging Kurzik, Luxon is better, by the way, guys. I said it. Siege turtles are better than trees. We all know it, guys. It's not even... I don't want to embarrass you guys. Like, you know, we don't have to debate that. I don't want to embarrass you live, okay? But, you know, what I want to know is that, unfortunately, role-playing as a tree man is not actually going to help me kill raid bosses or get hype for it. Because as much as I love, I love trees as much as the next guy... you know, I want to know what's actually going on there a little bit, right? You know, a little bit of mechanical depth there. And I know it's getting revealed on Friday, but if you're going to make a trailer that just makes people go like, what the hell is this? Like, what does it do? Right? Okay. Then why even bother doing the trailer? Just do the reveals, right? At that point, you know, like there's no point. But I do like that it is, in a way, going like the other way of Soul Beast. So Soul Beast was your pet is you, or you are your pet. Now I feel like, you are your pet's pet, right? You know, like at some point there as well. Yeah, it's kind of a funny one there. It's not Soul Beast, it's just Beast, because your pet gets juiced up, right? It's like the anti-Soul Beast. So, you know, you don't juice up, you don't snort your pet up like the left nostril. In fact, now it's going to be the other way around, okay? Like your pet snorts you, okay? It's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm the ranger now, you're the pet. I think that was a really funny theory someone had actually about this mechanically, is that when you swap over, you actually control your pet. And by the way, I wouldn't actually put that past ArenaNet. I think they would do that, by the way. I don't think it's out of the question. I think it's maybe like a 10% chance that's how it works. So in other words, when you hit the button, you swap with your pet literally, right? And you gain your pet's abilities and you have direct control. And then your character is controlled by AI. That's... not actually inconceivable, but I do think it is pretty unlikely. That will be one hell of a mechanic there for the Untamed, but probably maybe not gonna happen. Okay, but I mean that would be pretty out there. But, you never know, right? I mean, like I think there's a lot of really out there ideas for Spectre. And also for the Untamed 2 and for the Engineer, right? I won't say too much about that in this one, actually, but stay tuned for that one, guys, tomorrow. And, of course, on Friday, the bit of a French journalism website had a bit of a mishap, and we know a little bit more about it. I'll say one thing, guys, Jade Mex, and that is it for that one. Okay, that's the Untamed. Job done.